Hey, do you prefer to find the joy in life, or do you just want some help with that? If so, you're in the right place. So come on in and join the Joy Bunny clan. This is the My Slice of Life podcast. Hello and welcome to another jam-packed episode of the My Slice of Life podcast. My name is Sharon. I am your very own Highland host and the woman behind the My Slice of Life blog too, so I hope you'll come on over and spend some time with me there as well. Now, if you haven't been here before, this podcast is all about things in life which I find interesting, and I'm hoping you will too. The topic for this season is Let's Get Gardening. The last season was What's So Super About the Supernatural, so as you can tell, I cover a huge range of topics, so stick around with me because you never know what's going to be coming up next. Bound to be something else that you will enjoy. This week, however, I am bringing you a monster truckload of money-saving tips for your garden. But before I do, I just want to remind you, in case you've forgotten, to like this episode, share it around with everybody, don't be greedy, and dive into the links in the description. I will be eternally grateful, and you'll feel great for helping me out. By helping me, you're helping yourself, in actual fact. So that's a win-win, I would say. That is definitely a win-win. While I was doing some research on this, by the way, I did find a website which has a ton of great money-saving and other garden ideas, which I'll tell you about at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. Now, let's crack on and save some money. So if you don't want to waste your money in the garden, and who does, quite frankly, the first thing I'd recommend is having some sort of plan for your garden. Even a basic plan, such as how many larger plants or trees do you want? What type? Are they going to be decorative only? Do you want fruit trees? That sort of thing. Are you going to grow flowers, veg, herbs? Roughly where will you be putting them? Just a basic idea to help get you started, because doing that, that will help give you an idea of what's going to go where, so that you don't end up buying a load of plants that just, catch your eye when you're out and about. We've all done it. But then you get them home and you find you've absolutely nowhere to put them. You haven't got a clue what you're doing. You've wasted a lot of money, and then you're trying to get rid of all these plants. So a basic plan, just something basic, that's always a good idea to start with. A major way you can save money is not even to buy plants, but grow as much as you can from seed. And if you're new to this, don't be put off by hearing that. My last couple of episodes will help, and there's also about, 1 million, maybe 2 million people online showing how to start seeds, so you're not going to be stuck. And I promise you, it isn't as difficult as people make out. I've started everything from seed this year, and that is usually what I do, as much as I can. I can't actually remember the last time I bought a plant. I do tend to do it by seed. And I'll give you an example, hold on, from a seed book that I have here. Right. In this catalogue, I have found, where are they? Little Gem lettuce seeds. And there are 1,250 seeds in it for 99 pence. Now, I can't buy one pack of Little Gem lettuce in the shop for 99p, never mind over 1,000 of them. And, let me see, they've got leeks. That's 500 seeds for $2.39. And, what have I got? Tomatoes, you want tomatoes? They've got 70 seeds for 99 pence as well. So, you see what I mean? Much, much cheaper grown from seed. Even the more expensive seeds still work out cheaper than buying the plants. So if it's not something you usually do, sowing it from seed, give it a go. Try it. And I'm pretty sure that the seed sowing bug will get you, because, you might not believe me yet, but it's so exciting just to watch those little green shoots start to show, and then being able to watch those little plants grow bigger and bigger, and you get to look after them and you think to yourself, I did that. Honestly, you're going to go, look at that, look what I did. And as part of the seed sowing, try growing microgreens. You can do that all year round on a windowsill. They're all the rage now, aren't they? It's basically like normal seed sowing, except you're sowing more of them, but in a little tray, and you cut the baby leaves to eat them while they're young, instead of letting them become fully grown plants. They're packed with vitamins and nutrients. It's a really easy and cheap way to add some more leafy salad kind of foods to your diet as well. I don't know where you are, but I don't think we can buy them here. Or if you can, it'll be one of these, the health shops that charge you 10 times more for everything. So grow your own. Now, when it comes to garden equipment, you do not have to spend a fortune, and I don't care what anyone else tells you, they are probably lying. Gardening can be done on a very tight budget. I know, because that's how I do it, and it's how I've always had to do it. So yes, it can be done. I'm doing a garden and an allotment, and my budget is really, really tight. Always has been. For tools, get them second hand or free online. I use sites like Gumtree and FreeCycle if you have them. And I know a lot of people use Facebook Marketplace. I'm not on Facebook, so I can't advise you there. But if you put an ad on the other two saying what you're looking for, there's a really good chance that you'll get something at least. Failing that, you can always have a go at making your own tools as well. If you want a long-handled dibber, for example, for making holes in the soil when you're transplanting your plants, just get an old broom handle. Cut it to the length that will suit you, so there you go, custom made, and sharpen up one end a wee bit. Not so sharp that it'll stake a vampire, but enough that it'll dent the compost for you. That's all you need. And you can also make your own pots for seedlings using newspaper. Let's face it, it beats reading them. Just fold a sheet over to the height that you want your pot to be, right, and roll it around a jar. That's it. And you fold over the bottom so that, you've got something there to hold your compost in, nice and secure. It's really easy. That's all you have to do. Fold it around a jar or a tin, whatever you have. But don't use the magazines though, because the shiny paper doesn't degrade like the newspaper does, and you don't want all those chemicals in your soil anyway. Now you can also use toilet rolls, loo rolls, or kitchen paper rolls, just cut them to size. Egg trays, you could try them, and even orange halves or the grapefruit, once you've eaten it, just put some compost in, add your seed, and when it germinates, plant the whole thing out. The fruit peel, it'll break down, your plant will just grow on. Now the one thing I'll say, if you are using any of the kind of cardboard methods, just be aware you will need to water them more often, as the cardboard will drink more water than the seeds. Yeah, ask me how I found that one out. You can also use old cartons, like drinks cartons. They can be cut open on one side and planted in, and you can use plastic bottles like that as well. I've seen some great designs where people are using plastic bottles and they're hanging them like 3 or 4 in a row for a horizontal garden, and it looks absolutely amazing. And speaking of making your own stuff, make as much of your own compost as you possibly can. Use all your kitchen scraps. Don't be adding the cooked food or the meat, but all your veggie peelings, tea bags, scraps of paper, cardboard, all that sort of thing, that can all go in. You can also add your grass clippings, and any old plants or pruned branches can go in too. Just make sure you chop it all up nice and small so it'll decompose quickly and evenly for you. And if you're stuck, head to those interweb zones and see videos about this. I like to actually watch how people do things. If I'm not sure about something, so maybe that would work better for you too. I like to see people actually doing things. That's the best way for me to learn. As well as compost, try making your own leaf mould. Just gather up all the leaves you can in autumn, stuff them in some bin bags, tie them up nice and tight, poke a few holes in them to let the water drain out, and for circulation you need that air to circulate. Put them away in a corner for about a year and a half. The leaves will break down to a lovely texture, which you can then use as a mulch for your plants, and some people actually use that to start their seeds in as well. It's a great free resource there, and something which is fantastic for your garden. It's also a great way of using leaves because they decompose much slower than the other stuff you would put into your compost, so you really don't want to mix your leaves in your compost. Keep them for leaf mould and your plants will thank you, I promise you. That's what happens in the woods and forests, isn't it? The leaves just fall to the ground, break down as a natural mulch. So really all we're trying to do is copy nature when we use leaf mould, which if we did that kind of thing more often, I think we'd have healthier gardens all round, don't you? When's the last time you saw a rabbit weeding? My point exactly. You can also collect loads of bare twigs and branches and use them in your garden for free. They make great plant supports. I'm using them for peas and sweet peas in particular this year, but I'll tell you another great use for them. See if you're starting raised beds, and I know a lot of people are doing that now. Use logs or branches and twigs in the bottom half of your beds, because that way you don't need to use so much soil and compost, and it will save you a ton of money. I've seen people making raised beds and they fill them using bags and bags of compost. It must have cost them a fortune, so there's no need to do that. Put in the logs and twigs. Now, a similar tip to that is if you're using those really large pots, you know, the kind to grow trees in, or just those huge plants, again, don't fill the whole thing with compost. Use polystyrene blocks in the bottom half or the bottom third of it, and then top it up with compost. That way it will be cheaper, but also a lot lighter, so you'll still be able to move the pot around if you want to. Now, my next tip is a nice quick one. If you're buying plants, buy small. By buying the plants when they're smaller, you pay less than you would for a plant which the company's grown and cared for, for a longer length of time. If you look at seed catalogues, you'll see they've got different states of plug plants, and as they increase in size, they also increase in price. So buy them small. Another thing to consider when it comes to your garden and your pocket is to grow things which are expensive to buy in the shop. I'm thinking here more about vegetable growing because, let's face it, every time we go to the store, we're being ripped off, but there are some things which rip us off more than others, and one of my bugbears here is the cost of rhubarb. I looked it up online, and for 400 grams, which was 4 stalks in the packet, it cost £2.50. That's just over $3, I looked that up too, and that's only for 4 stalks. Have you seen the size of a rhubarb plant? Now, they can get pretty big, so that just feels so expensive to me, especially when that is such an easy plant to grow. And a skill which I would urge everyone to learn to save money in the garden is propagation. Learning how to get more plants from the ones you already have to increase your supply will save you a small fortune. It really will, a small fortune. A lot of cuttings will just root in water, that's all you have to do. Some just by bending a piece of it into the ground and pegging it there so it can make roots. That's called layering. I'm thinking of my thyme plant in particular, but a lot of plants do this naturally as well. You'll know the ones that spread in your garden. Watch how they spread. You can do it with lots of things. For plants like chives and rhubarb, it's just a matter of splitting it when it's dormant and replanting the pieces you have to grow on, and boom, you've got an extra plant. Simple. It's a really easy and exciting way to make your garden grow, and it's free. Yes, it is. Now, don't forget the online sites I mentioned earlier, because people will often give plants away for free on them too, or put up an ad if there is a specific plant that you're after. You might just get a lovely surprise, but if you don't ask, you'll never know. Now for some easy and free fertilisers for your plants. When you boil or steam your veg for dinner, don't throw out the water. Just let it cool down and use it to water your plants. They'll be able to get the minerals from it. Same with the water you cook your pasta in. Give it to your plants. Don't waste it. That is something I'm trying to do more of. I've been very guilty of letting all this go down the drain. Literally. So now I'm trying to remember to keep the liquid, even in a jug, till it cools, so I can get the washing up done, but still make use of that valuable water. Other things you can use include banana peels, eggshells, ground coffee, and yet again, the interweb zones is your friend here for all sorts of wonderful recipes and ideas to try to feed your plants. For plants you don't want to feed, in other words, the weeds, I've got a weed killer tip for you, which isn't free, but it is really cheap. It's safe and it's super effective. On a dry day, nice and dry, get a tub of salt, sprinkle it pretty generously over your weeds, then wash it in with vinegar. Now, I've seen a lot of people using one or the other, but I use both and it works very quickly. This is especially good for your paths or, those areas around the edges. Basically, I use it wherever I'm not growing something because I don't want to kill off my own plants. But the pavement just outside the gate, the garden path, those sorts of places, works brilliantly. Really good. It saves me a lot of time because I know I don't need to weed those areas. I just sprinkle it, leave it, and off I go. And it does work super, super quickly. Now the last tip I have for you is something I haven't actually tried yet, but I will definitely be doing this year, guaranteed. If you have fruit trees or bushes and you can't get to the fruit before the birds strip every last bit off, and I'm thinking of my little cherry tree here, tie a few strips of tin foil to the branches, quite long strips, so they hang down, but they'll reflect the light as they flap about and scare the birds away from your fruit. So I might actually be able to get a cherry this year. Fingers crossed. That's all I want, is to try one of my cherries before the birds get them. I did say at the start of this episode, didn't I, that I'd found a brilliant website which is full of great garden ideas, and it's called, it's quite a strange one, balconygardenweb.com. That's balcony, BALCONY, garden web, just WEB.com, and it's full of growing guides and so on, but the DIY section is the one I just loved. And if you have found this episode useful, I think you'll love their ideas too. So there you go. That's it for this week, folks. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you'll join me again next week when I'll have yet another idea to encourage us all to get and keep gardening. But until then, you take care of your wee self.